Good afternoon, good morning, colleagues. My name is Alexei Lukatsky, and I'll be the moderator of this roundtable discussion this morning. And like Alexei said, our task is very important and even ambitious in a way. And before we start, I'd like to introduce to you the participants of our roundtable. Some of them are already here on the stage, and some of them will join us a bit later. Sergey is a moderator of Anti-Chat. That's a very famous forum. Ruslan Gattarov, member of Council of Federation and Committee for Informational Technologies. Tatiana is organizer of the forum. And Yulia Shestakova is a member of CTF Info Protection. And Georgi will join us in a moment. He is Deputy Department of Regulation from the Ministry of Mass Communications of Russia, and this mask is for anonymous representatives of the Center of Security of the Federal Security Service of Russia. They will join us a bit later and make a very interesting presentation, which will once again underscore the importance of why we are here today, and will also testify to the fact that the state really does care for the young and for active use of IT. And let's start by one common question to all of our panelists. So first, we'll start our roundtable by the fundamentals of the topic, by some general introduction to the topic, because we have sometimes an idea that the young, they cannot find their way, their place in life, they cannot find a job, they have no possibility to use their knowledge and practice. And on the other hand, some people think that there is no problem, you can go into cybercrime and live a happy life there, especially considering that Russian state does not really care about this for the time being. So my first question to all the panelists is there such a problem at all? And then we'll start discussing more particular questions which have been prepared to our speakers, and during discussion you'll be able to ask any question you may have to any of our panelists, and we'll try to answer your questions. So first I'd like to give the floor to Ruslan Gattarov, member of the Council of Federation, representing our public authorities. Let him share his opinion with us. Thank you, Alexei, and good morning, everybody, since it's still morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, talking about the state and answering your question, let me say that definitely, to my mind, the situation is getting changed. Of course, based on my personal gut feeling, and I guess it coincides with the gut feeling of those present here, the state did not pay any attention to cyber security, to internet security for a long time. And it still is not a priority in our country. Officially, we don't have any cyber security strategy. We don't have any serious regulations regulating this issue. Apart from the Federal Security Service, nobody deals with this in a systemic way. And we can continue this story. But there is a market, black market, or whatever you call it, in which you can find somebody able to break into a database, to retrieve this or that data, to steal information, money, or whatever you want. There is a market of such services. There is an offer. and demand for such services. At the same time, we have colleagues from other countries working on this in a systemic way, organizing cyber troops, developing viruses, and increasing budgets manifold, increasing the number of warriors involved in cyber war, and not even being ashamed of this. So, what happens now? To my mind, the situation is changing. Now the state is finally starting to pay attention to it, slowly. Making mistakes, but, well, the state is a state. It's like a machine which has a lot of inertia. And now we are trying to get this going. We're trying to start this mechanism, this machine. Because when you start a machine, it's not that easy to stop it. So what we have done now, we have just started it. Our president, Vladimir Putin, started finally paying attention to this. He already speaks of cyber security. That's important. He issued the presidential decree number 31 about this particular issue. The Council of Federation, jointly with all the federal agencies, Federal Security Service, Presidential Administration, Ministry of Mass Communications, representatives of Russian Committee of Surveillance, and necessarily all those experts specializing in cybersecurity, like Kaspersky Laboratory, InfoWatch, Alexei Lukatsky, they are collaborating with us in development of cybersecurity strategy. And we're talking also about training future experts in high schools, or even from secondary schools. We should start training such specialists. There are other tools we want to have, and it will be a very modern and up-to-date political document. This document will make cyber security one of governmental priorities. And this means that those who are involved in cybersecurity watching can help the state and will be very important people in doing so. Like Sergei Shoigu, the new defense minister of Russia, said, we will have cyber security forces. A million people. If we have 5,000 to 10,000 cyber warriors, this would be great. Especially now in the army, the salary is already competitive, and if they get some extras for combating cyber attacks and ensuring cyber security, I'm sure it will be a great force. And it's important that now the state has recognized that this is an issue and it has to be solved, and we started already solving it. Thank you. And now I'd like to give the floor to Sergei, moderator of Anti-Chat. Let's, Sergei, look at this issue by the eyes of those who see the cybersecurity issues from inside. Do you think, what do you think should be done for the states to really tackle the problem? Thank you, dear colleagues, thank you for your question. And while you were speaking, while Ruslan was speaking, I started remembering, has any authority ever paid attention to anti-chat? And you know, we actually were blackmailed a couple of times with a choice of either going to court with a criminal case or collaborating with the authorities. But everybody sees what's going on in the world, and you know, there are Chinese, US, NATO hackers and others. The war is on, industrial espionage is on. Of course, the Americans, they try not to write that there are break-ins, but still we read about Chinese hackers being very successful. So Russia shouldn't be lagging behind, because everybody knows that Russian hackers are real good. So being a representative of sort of an underground forum, I can say that the choice is simple. You either stay on in the legal area and you earn very little money, or you go underground and you make a lot of money doing something illegal. And if you don't care for your motherland, if you do care for making money without any big efforts, without any scruples, of course the choice is simple, and it's very simple to make real good money, and you can sell a vulnerability which hasn't been published yet, and it can be easily bought by some agencies collaborating with US, and all those identified vulnerabilities can easily get into the hands of an enemy. I don't see any solution of this problem yet. We do see the problem. The problem is being solved, but in a very limited way, and it's being solved only by the management of resources in charge of security. Now we are trying to make our forum, anti-chat forum, more legal. We are trying to show that the legal business is much better than the illegal one, at least because you don't have to be afraid of somebody knocking on your door, security forces knocking on your door. And, you know, now companies like Positive Technologies, for instance, or Digital Security, they are looking for experts on information security. Where can you find such experts? Because nobody trains them in high schools, or if somebody is trained, they learn this business based on some very old, 10 years old manuals being outdated. So this isn't the way to train good specialists. So only in the underground and real life, in real cyberspace, you can find good experts to whom you could pay a good salary, but the person will be really efficient, so that the person would be earning as much money as if he were writing viruses, but at the same time working legally. Thank you. And now I'd like to give the floor to Georgy Gritsaev, also a representative of the state. He's deputy head of Department of Regulation of Ministry of Mass Communications of Russia. And as far as I know, you have a strategy for development till 2018, with doubling of IT experts, especially those related to cybersecurity. What solutions is the ministry implementing now to attract the young into the legal business? to prevent them from going into the legal side of this business? Thank you for your question. And I'd like to say that information security experts should very well understand how to exploit vulnerabilities, how break-ins are done, and other things. And all experts are very highly demanded in the market. We see that Russian producers of software, system integrators and others, and even in Headhunter, you can see that vacancies very highly demanded are code auditor or security auditor. And the market of these jobs is a market of demand, which means that salaries for real good experts are good, $50,000 to $100,000 a year. And this means that the market is there. The demand in business for such specialists is there, but there is no adequate offer of these specialists based on different data. Satisfaction of corporations by the quality of their IT security experts is low. It means that the employers are not satisfied by the quality of education, by professional qualification of their security experts. And on the black side of the business, of course, the choices are made differently depending on education, on personal principles and whatever. And unfortunately, this balance we see it's already very much integrated in our previous experience. Remember 1990s with criminal lifestyle being trendy, and it wasn't easy to change it. So we need to shape an outlook of the young the right way, and the state needs to interfere as well. You know, this is actually characteristic for professional lawyers, for instance, or for securities traders, or M&A experts, or tax consultants. They always have to make a choice whether they will stay in the gray business zone or they will serve the Russian society and the country as such. And in principle, Alexei is very often tackling the problem, and I can tell you that now the state is developing the fundamentals of the state policy in this area with further funding of various propaganda events and funding for creating awareness about the problem among the public. Development of IT industry also provides for increasing the we know that the number of IT experts will double by 2018. Now there are about 300,000 people of them, but we need more, like I said. But unfortunately, the high schools do not produce such specialists. Every year, 25,000 IT specialists graduate, but they need 5 to 7 years to gain experience after they graduate. And unfortunately, even notwithstanding the salaries in this industry, there is no easy money. And many ex-graduates, they do not stay in the industry for 5 to 7 years to gain experience because of all the constraints and go into other industries. System integrators, companies producing software, they do collaborate, they help high schools to set up special departments to train more IT experts. The Ministry of Communications is working on development of venture funding instruments for these industries. In the framework of these activities, specialized R&D and educational establishments are being set up, and the ministry collaborates with Skolkovo and Yiannopolis. And now, for instance, there are a couple of projects underway in order to set up competency centers for information security in the framework of Skolkovo and other institutions, and support of young professionals to make them stay in the IT industry is being conceived. For instance, alternative military service could be available for them, or they could probably in future serve in the army, but in the IT security divisions. You mentioned Yiannopolis. This isn't about Moscow, and one of the problems is to find a job outside the Moscow ring road, somewhere else than Moscow. It is a problem. And since you mentioned Kazan, let me talk about this, because unfortunately, the professional qualification of graduates of information security departments of high schools is low. The postgraduates, the ex-graduates, they don't have much experience and knowledge. The CTF information security contests for graduates is a good thing, and I'd like to give the floor to Yulia Shestakova, member of the organizing committee of Volga CTF. This isn't Moscow CTF, so regional information security specialist recruitment is an issue. Could you share your experience of how you do this in Samara, and what benefit does CTF give to the teams participating in them? Thank you. You know, the student contest started not in Moscow, in Yekaterinburg, in the Urals. It started as a regional competition. The CTF competition in Samara is an open competition. Teams from the whole country come there, but we pay special attention to Volga region teams. We send out invitations and inquiries to the high schools to motivate them. Because we need 5 to 7 years for a graduate of IT department to become a knowledgeable person. Where can you get the experience? Sometimes people go to the dark side of the moon, to the dark side of this business to gain experience. We want the young to get legal experience, not a legal one, and after such competitions they know which way they should master their skills in future. They will have some specialization already. For instance, last year our competition was attended by the teams who played for the first time, not having any idea what it was. They came from IT security departments from different high schools, and we very much hope that this has given them a good chance to master their skills in future. Also, representatives of various companies attend the championships, telling the young that there are testers, auditors, and so on, which are very good jobs with good salaries. Many graduates can find a job during such a competition, and we are very grateful to the government of Samara region for the big support it renders to the young, and we are very grateful to the good collaboration we have with the high schools. The thing is that not all integrators hire the young to work in regions, because testers, for instance, they don't have to physically live in the city where they work. There are lots of vacancies all around the country. Cybersecurity is especially important, but the main problem is that there is no small business, there are no SMEs, there are mainly big companies in the information security industry, probably because that nobody trusts small companies. In Yekaterinburg, they have their own integrator, a strong one, recruiting students, also teaching at a specialized department of the Federal University, and the situation is changing. The CTF movement is spreading to Taganrog, Kaliningrad, Chelyabinsk, Tomsk, and other cities, many of them who hold their own CTF competitions, inviting people from all around their cities. And there are already students that can teach younger students something, but these are people who have read forms, searched for something, haven't found some information, and so on. But you know why people go into cybercrime? Because in our country, being a hacker is not considered a crime or an offense. It's not like if you kill somebody, right? So many guys, they don't really realize what they do. They sit at their computer at home, they don't kill anybody, they don't physically rob anybody, so they often do not quite realize what they do. Only when they get older, they start understanding that. And when a boy is 15 to 17 years old, most often the guy doesn't really understand. For him, it's exciting, it's gaming, it's research. That's the problem. Thank you. You are right. It is an issue. The young getting involved into cybercrime do not realize what consequences unsanctioned hacking has. Now the main provisions for information security are being developed, and on the coming Monday the final draft of the document will be discussed. This document provides for a large number of action items our state has never undertaken, such as, for instance, setting up special courses for children beginning with the age of late preschool age, working with iPads or whatever. We also need this for kindergarten teachers, for academics, and so on. We also are developing a special program for those involved in information security, safeguarding, and we will hear what has to be done to protect personal data of citizens, and we will also explain why it's bad going into cybercrime. And talking about mass media and training of such experts, we need more attention from the law enforcement bodies, those who follow the talented young people, the CTF. Because this is probably why the young, after not having found a good job for themselves in legal business, they go into cybercrime. And now, looking at this mask, let me give the floor to Oksana Dokuchayeva, representative of Center of Information Security, for her to voice her opinion. This is the service, the agency many people are afraid of because they do not know what this agency does. So let her explain the goals of their service. Good morning. Oksana Dokuchayeva, Center of Information Security from the Federal Security Service of Russia. Let me remember what Yulia said and underscore that our center pays a good deal of attention to competitions, knowing that young people often have nowhere to go, and they do not always try to use their skills in legal business, and sometimes it's easier to be done in cybercrime. But there are certain problems, not only in terms of our legislation, but also in terms of international law as well. Many of our hackers, virus developers and others think that if they perform their illegal acts sitting in this territory but with effect in other countries, they think that they will not be punished, knowing that our state hasn't paid much attention at cybercrime, that they will not have to serve a real term in prison, and so on. And hoping that if they perform their crime in other countries, foreign authorities, foreign law enforcement bodies do not touch the attackers while they are in Russia, waiting for them to leave the country, maybe. Of course, this isn't good. Because it's a damage to our country's reputation. So, of course, it would be right if our law enforcement bodies, if our official agencies paid more attention to prevention of cybercrime. And talking about championships, we have developed guidelines for paying more attention to such games. in order to avoid any negative consequences, negative processes, because we know that now there is a lack of cybersecurity staff, so you need to pay more attention to student championships at the because there you see young people at the at a certain stage of their development. And we are trying to voice this concern at a very high level. Thank you. Thank you. And I wanted to say that the attention of Center of Information Security does not mean somebody's taking their fingerprints, that somebody is watching the young, nobody's going to watch them or fingerprint the participants of CTF championships. Talking about the existent law, like my colleague said that spoke about the law. We as legislators, we would like to have it that the public authorities and special services would report to the citizens, but the experts in security who collaborate with us in development of the strategy said, no, that's impossible. Let them report to the Russian parliament on what they do. I don't understand this. Maybe you know how many hackers per year will go to prison. How many of them are already in prison? How many years will they have to serve in prison? And then look at other countries' statistics. Now they catch pedophiles because that's the right thing to do. But why should we now? Yeah, I said that we in future will need to increase the duration of the term in prison to be served by hackers in case they break into major infrastructural systems. The journalists changed a bit my words, but I said that not now. We will need this in some time, while now we would need to have sort of inevitable punishment. We start with this and we increase the term of prison later. And it's my message to the cybercrime departments, because we need statistics, we need something to base the punishment on. We don't have it yet. Thank you, Georgi. I'd like to support what Ruslan said. He touched upon a very important issue regarding different matrix of the information security in our country, because the state collects a lot of information on informational security in Russia. And unfortunately, the majority of initial data and data based on statistic analysis, the majority of this data are in open access. The data are not being structured based on understandable matrix. But right now, for instance, this work is being done, and very soon I hope that we will receive a number of principles on which the newly set up bodies will report. Some of the things will be used by the government or the heads of state agencies in order to make some decisions. Talking about criminalization of various acts, I cannot say that our state is the state-of-the-art machine in terms of watching such cybercrime, and our penal code also has certain drawbacks. And the ministry has suggested many times to decriminalize a part of cybercrime. I mean those who are not associated with some aggravating consequences, or for instance access to information without being a part of a special group, or access to information which did not result in some catastrophic consequences. These offenses can be considered as criminal, and at the same time the warning should be done. For instance, a number of hackers or a group of guys has been noticed to be doing something semi-illegal. This means that this information is there, and if we see that the offenders are minors, then the parents will have to answer, and we have to have records of such people and try to convert them to peaceful use, to legal use of their knowledge and skills. Thank you. And I'd like to say that very often we'll have a problem of making something out of sheer stupidity. For instance, many teenagers press a button somewhere, and it resulted in attack on governmental resources, which is illegal. Anyway, what can you do in such a case? Just some preventive discussions, but that's the way it is. Can I intrude once again? If the state's resource is not protected in any way, I guess your service should ask the owners of the resource, why isn't it protected, especially if some money was allocated for protection? Well, it's my center actually in charge of protection of state's informational resources. I know. But the majority of citizens, they think of authorities as some single mass. When you come to a small town, people say, oh, we don't have water here. We say that, well, you should apply to some federal level officials. They said, we don't care, we don't know who we should go to, we just don't have water. So actually, same here. You have to see. The latest cases of attacks onto state resources were ridiculous because the doors were nearly open, so to speak. So we needed to make the public agencies aware of the issue, and then they'll come to such forums like this offering very high salaries for your help. We are ready on our side to do so. And I'd like to say the following. We say we have a shortage of qualified personnel. We say that the cybersecurity forces, they do work, but they also have lack of qualified personnel. And qualified personnel usually doesn't apply for a job in a governmental security agency. For them it's a risk. They're afraid of not having the right to leave the country, to travel, or for other things, because they don't know. Others look for different jobs. And you see a lot of those who don't have much technical experience, but have operating experience, a good one. But who's going to protect our country? Because attacks everybody. Attacks come from everybody, not only from Russian hackers. You know, actually, very few high-class experts want to apply for a job in a federal agency, especially if the job is to catch the hackers, the guys, for instance. Nobody's going to break the laws and of member of the Brotherhood. I mean, we're not going to apply for a job to catch our brothers. Thank you. Oksana, is there really a concern that if somebody comes for a job in your agency, the person will have no right to leave the country, will have to sign lots of various restriction papers and so on? Is all this real, or is it just a job with good conditions, good salary, and you would be ready to consider candidates for a job in your agency? You know, based on the law, we do have restrictions of travel abroad for such persons, because they usually work with confidential information, which means that they have no right to leave the country in the 5 years after they last saw some very confidential security documents. On the other hand, one can't complain of the salary, one can't complain of the job package, and the majority of those who work in our center in cybersecurity, they do this job because they love it. Thank you. Colleagues, the only thing that stops somebody from applying for a job here is that the guys will not be able to go to Turkey to lie in the sun on the beach for 5 years. That's the only obstacle. Once again, let me abuse your patience, because I'll have to run away in 5 minutes because there is a meeting at the ministry at 11:30, even though it's such an interesting discussion here. But I very much hope that somebody from the audience will join our discussion at the moment. You know, this idea, we've had it for quite a time. Now we have a very active Minister of Defense, and I think that our main potential for such cybersecurity staff is in our army. I think it's possible to create a very big, effective anti-hacker center in our armed forces, and we'll start this work shortly. I'll meet the Minister of Defense and I'll ask him about this, because probably they are doing this already, just nobody knows about it. But in any case, we are going to tackle this for sure. Thank you. Dear colleagues, let me change the format of our discussion. Ruslan has 5 more minutes. So, before he goes, do you have any questions to him? Because he'll have to rush away. He's a representative of the Council of Federation, representative of legislative authorities in this country. Do you have any requests to him on what they should focus on first? I'm asking for questions specifically to Ruslan because he has to be off. Do you have any questions to him, Alexander? Oh yes, here is a question. Hi. Maxim Goncharov, Voronezh city. I'm a security engineer. My question is about using hackers in cyber war. What do you think about this? When people who have been involved in cybercrime in the past will now be used to assist the governments in cyber war against others. Look, has nobody in this country crossed the street when the red light is on? It's an offense, it is. Has nobody exceeded the speed while driving? But that doesn't mean that these people should never be recruited by federal agencies. So I think that if, at certain moments of time, you have to protect your state, your citizens, you have to protect information systems on whose viability lives of people depend. You should actually accept assistance of anybody. For instance, in the times of the Second World War, those who used to be ex-offenders, they had to pay double price to earn pardon, but in this case we need to protect the integrity of our country. Alexander Bondarenko from Leto company. My question is, well, actually it sounded so in your discussion that if we talk about the lack of specialists of IT security, these are the guys who graduate from high schools. And is anything going to be done about this? Cyber strategy competitions is good, but they are based on standards that lag behind the latest technologies. Sergey just said about this. We don't have a representative of Ministry of Education here, by the way. It's a pity. We have a Commission on Development of Information Society at the Council of Federation, and I'm also a member of a Committee for Education, Science and Cultural Policy of State Duma. And we started collaboration with Ministry of Education and a senator from our commission, Lyudmila Bokova. She is the senator from Saratov region. And we see that if we make it all by the 1st of September, at school, the fundamentals of safe internet and cybersecurity will be taught at informatics lessons, because the federal state educational standard IT is already included, and all kids will learn it now at school, now at secondary school, now high schools and universities. The problem is with the inadequate attitude of Ministry of Education to high schools and universities. I worked in a high school and I know what it is. The state is inert, while the scientific environment, the academics, the higher educational establishments are even more inert than the state, in this country at least. So, of course, you have to change a lot. And this is the second thing we are going to tackle. After we complete our current program, we will start focusing on educational aspects. And we will need more serious experts, and we'd like to invite all those present here, those who are ready to collaborate with us, to work with documents, not just come and say, yes, we have to do this. Those who are ready to develop documents, it's hard work, it's hard legislative work. We are open for everybody. We also have a working group for this purpose. But we need to strengthen this work, considering security issues. Everybody is welcome. I'm serious. You can find my contacts. And if you call us, we never reject anybody. And last question. My name is Evgeny Tsarев. We have representatives of public authorities here. You know, when we talk about development of the market, you always ask the question, who's the employer? Right? Looking at how it is in other countries, Iran, China, United States, and so on, they have strong traditions. In China, it's simple. They need technologies, they invest in surveillance, in reconnaissance, they protect information. Iran also does this, while Russia is out of the loop in a way. Who is the internal employer here? We spoke about the Ministry of Defense here, that's understandable, but in US and China, the private sector is very much interested in development of the sector and cybersecurity as such. In our country, it's different. Everybody thinks about protecting the state systems. I know in the US, private providers invest a lot of money to cybersecurity, like the Chinese companies do. Thank you. You know? Okay, we have Federal Law 152 on personal data. That's all we have. And it says that there are technical requirements. The personal data operator will have to comply with, and then he gets a certificate that he can do whatever he wants. But if some data are stolen, it's no problem for personal data operators. They'll pay 1,000 rubles penalties and that's it. In the US, it's $500,000. In Europe, it's 300,000 euros penalties. In our country, it's $30 penalty. Don't we have any information leaks? Of course we do. We need to change the approach, and we have now developed amendments to the law, which will soon be submitted to the State Duma in order to change the situation. We want to reduce the list of technical requirements. We want to make business representatives liable. We want to increase the amount of penalties, and then business representatives, how to put it, they will not negotiate with the official to get a certificate for data processing. They will recruit security guys to protect personal data better. And by such a legislative initiative, we really can change something in this respect. As to our strategy, we think that the main object of protection is the citizen, the business, and the state. So we are going to develop goals, tasks, approaches, and all that should go bottom up and top down. In the United States, in Europe, everything goes bottom up. In our country, it should be top down. And this is what we are going to start now. We convinced the expert community that we are in a very serious project. We need to do this. Now we have to convince the president and the state that the strategy should be adopted. And this strategy should be strategy for action. A chapter on public-private partnership is part of the strategy, and there will not only be liabilities but also benefits prescribed. Thank you. There's one more topic we haven't brought up, but it's an important one. I mean, demand for such cybersecurity guys, for the state, training of IT experts, and so on. And another question, where can a young graduate go to use his knowledge and his skills so that not only the Information Security Center benefits from this, but other companies as well? Let me give the floor to Elena Bastangieva, Special Project Manager from Positive Technologies. She is both the organizer of this forum and she organizes CTF championships we have here in the hall next door. And she is probably the major employer in terms of information security. And this isn't about paper security like some people call it. It's even more important in Russia than other issues, because first of all, in this country, people get punished for non-execution of laws and instructions. So audit, pen test, code analysis and other things are important now. So how do you do this? Thank you, Alexei. First of all, let me tell you that very often when we discuss these issues with our colleagues, we think, where can a young graduate go? Into cybercrime or into legal cyber business? We just discuss it from our own life principles points of view, because the problem is there. It's a multi-aspect problem. Till not long ago, the main problem was that the society and the business and the state, nobody understood why we need any information security and who these guys ensuring it were. Both the business community and the state thought that inside corporations there are guys just eating budgets, receiving salaries for nothing. Not long ago the situation changed. Especially for big business, there is no question why they need information security guys, and now these guys are very much demanded in the business community, but it's much more difficult with the state. It's no secret how information security system is structured in public agencies. The main focus is to get rid of regulators, to write as many papers as necessary to cover their back, and that's it. While a young guy graduating from his high school is looking forward to some challenging, interesting job, exciting one, because when we are talking about young graduates, who are they? They live in a different world than even my generation. I graduated 20 years ago. Today's graduates, they are completely different from us. They have a different life perception, different understanding of informational systems. They really live in cyber world now. They do. They are not interested in paperwork, in signing and making papers and so on. They want real job, really doing something. And the task of the whole society is to convey to them a simple message, the main idea that being a hacker is not bad. It's bad to be a black hacker. It's bad to be involved in cybercrime. If you are a hacker, you are a high-level specialist. So use your skills to protect your country's information resources. Work for the benefit of your country, of your citizens. Don't go into cybercrime. Because many of them get involved into cybercrime just because they don't know what they are doing. They think, oh, and what if I try to break into some governmental resource just to try? The world is changing, and if today the guy is doing this just out of stupidity, not knowing the consequences, not knowing that it's crime, tomorrow it can change and the guy can really become a cyber criminal. Nobody wants to stay for a month without water, electricity, or whatever. Now, all systems, all process control systems are nearly automated. All enterprises function in automated mode, and the question is, who's going to protect them? So our idea of Positive Technologies company and our ideas of citizens is simple. Look guys, there are lots of exciting work in companies ensuring information protection, and also in business companies who are consumers of these services. The salaries are quite competitive. Very soon, information security job will be popular and prestigious, because many hackers, they don't really care for money, for salaries. They want recognition, they want fame among other hackers in this community. And the main problem, I think, is to organize ongoing communication between the state, the business community, and hacker community. The state should make it clear. And I was very glad to hear from Ruslan an invitation to anybody to apply for jobs, because the state actually says this way, that the state needs these guys. The state needs these guys not to joke around, but to use their skills and knowledge to help their country. I think this too can motivate if you are invited to protect your country's systems. On the other hand, in our educational system, we also need a lot of changes, both in high schools and secondary schools. Not only information security as a discipline should be taught. Like Georgi rightfully said, life principles should be changed. And all of them should understand that if they protect data, protect information, they should protect it, not trying to abuse it. And of course, when all of this is supported by a law, this can give good results. Positive technologies, for instance, has been in this awareness creation business for a long time. You know, Security Lab, which was born nearly at the moment our company was born. Webinars are held on a monthly basis on various aspects of information security. We have CTFs on a regular basis. This forum, for instance, as well. We do all we can to unite efforts of all the stakeholders. For instance, the first CTF was based on a simple principle. Hackers are in T-shirts, business community representatives are in suits and ties. So you should collaborate. Go ahead, guys. Because we don't want to see the nightmare when the state is trying to protect its strategic resources only using papers, while the hackers having no other way to become famous and acknowledged in other areas, they go into cybercrime. By the way, you know, the problem is that business community, they have their own community, they don't communicate with others. The students and graduates, they keep aside. I'm here in the black sweatshirt, being a representative of underground community. I'm afraid that the audience is getting bored. Probably not everybody knows what anti-chat forum is and where it comes from, so let me tell you a brief history of our anti-chat forum. It was born in around 2000. It's nearly 13 years old. It's a major information security portal. It used to be a website, antichat.ru. It was closed and the forum was opened. There are more than 140,000 users registered, more than 2 million messages. It's a big forum with its own messages, with its break-ins, with its sorrows and joys. I registered in this forum in 2004. Before that, in 2002, I developed quests for anti-chat. Quests are like CTFs, but they appeared earlier. There is an authorization form. You have to understand how it can be broken in to go into the next level. And after these quests, CTFs appeared, which was quite logical, and now it attracts a lot of people. Anti-chat was the first one to tell about site scripting vulnerabilities, because those reading anti-chat didn't know what it is, what it was, and how it was to be used. And I looked at the statistics. 26% of vulnerabilities are related to cross-site scripting. Anti-chat also has an interesting history. In 2005, there was a video on cross-site scripting. It was malt.ru. And the video showed an example of how a break-in can be done to steal cookies, and that was it. Mult.ru was chosen. Oleg Kuvayev was the author of Masaya, and 3 school guys attacked the resource. Oleg Kuvayev had to close the resource. Oleg Kuvayev announced that these guys were terrorists and hackers and asked to close the resource, but nothing happened. After this, anti-chat administration Commission made conclusions and actually banned anything to be done on behalf of anti-chat. Anti-chat was always against the viruses and other issues. We discussed web-based security without legalizing hackership and other things. We had over these 13 years ups and downs. In 2004 or 5 we had an up, then a down, then in 2009 up again. In 2010 our forum was penetrated, the database was available to everybody and you could see what was going on in closed parts of the forum. R.org spinned off with technical specialists spinning off, while now anti-chat is more focused on social media, sales and so on. Anti-chat is now looking for a niche, because virus-free podcasts, I voiced this strategy some time ago in order to make anti-chats more open and legal. We focus now on CTFs, but again, CTF competitions are good for young, bright guys, winners of Olympic Games, looking for logic to discover a cipher, a code which will not really help anybody. And the difference between a CTF guy and a hacker is that he's not only looking for vulnerability, but also how to get hold of the system, how to find other bad guys in the system, how to neutralize them, to stay alone in the system. Those CDF participants, they don't have an experience yet, while to do the job you need to be both a hacker and have experience, not just be a graduate. Sergey, I wouldn't like to start a discussion of what is better, a CTF participant or a hacker. So this question is closed. I have a question to you as to one of the few guys who represent the so-called underground movement present here. Remember what the representatives of Ministry of Mass Communications, business representatives and others said. So, do you really think that what you see shows that the situation is really changing? Or do you think that we just come together for 2 days, we discuss it all, and then we forget it? And then the progressive young people will have only one choice to go into cybercrime? Or is there still already some change underway? Even a slow one, but like Ruslan said, we start slowly, but then you won't be able to stop the spinning wheel. So do you see any positive changes, or we're just doing talk shop without any efforts? Well, I'm currently rather skeptical, because if you look at actions, there are no actions implemented. Of course, it's a great opportunity to be participants of this roundtable, because we have the business community, public authorities and underground all on the same stage in the same panel. I've never seen that. A very interesting combination of speakers here. But what I currently see is that technically clever guys, they go from underground to business companies, because the business companies know how to seduce them by good salary, exciting job, and motivation also plays a role. The state is probably doing something, but only at a legislative level. I'm just saying that Ruslan Gatarov is saying that there might be some changes, but we don't feel them yet. So you mean a change in terms of a trend of young, talented guys migrating from underground to business community? Yes. Colleagues, while Elena is getting ready, I want you to get ready your questions, and now we start asking questions in the audience, and our panelists will be ready to answer your questions. And there will be somebody else to join us in a few minutes. So first your questions. I have a comment to what Sergey said. Sergey, you said that at the second positive hack days there were separate groups of guys, the ones in costume cravat and the others in sweatshirts and t-shirts. You know how much effort we invested in order to invite the guys we invited, I mean the ones from the business community, because for them the word hacker is a curse word. Why hackers? What are we going to do there? What people will think if they know that we appeared at the hackathon? You know how many public officials, state officials attended our 3 forums? Nearly 40–30% in the 3 years. It's a huge progress, I guess. Huge progress. People in the authorities do have certain understanding that the problem should be tackled. Probably they are not very strong in organizing communication, because there should be a two-way movements. It's not that just to tell everybody we are hackers, we'll go into the underground. The hackers too should have a change, because the authorities, they don't just know how to get from you your best knowledge and skills. Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions? Yes, let me answer to Sergey regarding CTF very briefly. CTF is a very open competition. All the CTF is not CPF, it's master classes, lectures, on top of this, and I invite Sergey to participate in the next final, which will be held on September 1st in 1st of September. And this will go on several days. I assure you the weather will be good, there will be lots of interesting guys to meet, and those of you who feel you have something to tell, something useful to tell the students, we will all of you. We'll really appreciate you coming. Thank you. Okay, since you spoke about the fact that cybersecurity guys are demanded, we have a University of Corporation next door where I live. Well, it's not about security, it's not about anything of the kind, but they opened a special department on IT security. There is a center for jobless retraining, or for those who want to undergo retraining. And there is a special department on retraining, again, on information security. The grocery store where I buy my groceries, I also see an ad saying they are looking for an administrator of databases with the knowledge of protecting the data. Так просто в силу исторических причин я получаю оттуда выпуски по научной, студенческой научной работе.
And I always get from them some bulletins on students' R&D activities. I see, for instance, dynamic translation of code, and these are hackers' activities. Which means that the environment shows that all this is needed, popular, and the demand is there. Can you speak louder, please? I have a question to those who are involved in correlation. And if we recruit such people who, for instance, speed on the road, they will not become racers. So, of course, writing in code and it's different. So those who are in charge of education, will they be ready to hire those to protect their cyber data abroad? Are there any people
Валер, к сожалению, наверное,
such experts?
Руслан ушел, который озвучил эту тему. Не знаю, насколько Георгий готов ответить, но среди нас нет представителей Минобразования, поэтому эта тема...
We don't have any representatives of the Ministry of Education here, so I'm afraid that this topic will not, this question will not be answered. There is a special document which is currently being prepared, and there is a proposal from the expert community to prepare such courses. But like Ruslan said, this will be tackled. In any case, this will not stay standstill. And I don't know whether you have seen it or not in the web. There was information on a vacancy in one of R&D institutes of Ministry of Defense, and they were looking for somebody who has been involved in research in terms of protection. Which means that we already started the work on recruitment of such specialists. It's not just being done publicly, but the situation is changing. Georgi can share with you some more details without disclosing any state secrets. Okay. As far as I understand, this question is related to Alexander's question. In general, it presumes a solution for midterm future. First, a special component should be introduced into the primary school, secondary school, and high school. It should be like fundamentals of information security. The stakeholders are sure familiar with educational standards in this area for higher education. We analyzed the actual situation in the market, and our conclusion is we have good personnel among the experts not specializing in IT, but those who have physical, mathematical, and other education. And based on physical and mathematical education, you can very easily qualify for information security. job. And this is the way we are going, and we develop special training programs. There is a professional standard based on which qualification requirements are being made, and this comes from the Ministry of Labor. And this means that these professional standards will apply to everybody hired. In terms of employment of citizens, these regional retraining centers and this number of action items in the midterm future will make it possible for us to reach the goals we've been talking about. For instance, double-fold increase in organizational security. And the second question, which I heard here, or for instance, talking about those who have been involved in cybercrime in their past lives, so to speak. It's quite clear here with us. When you have a law, it's for everybody. It applies to everybody. If there is a decision, so the decision should be either enforced, the person should serve a penalty, serve a term or not, and if there is no limitation to be recruited to any position, any person like this can be recruited in different ways, and everybody is equal in terms of their capability to apply for such a job, and the person, if the person has served a term, for instance, for the crime committed, the person is clean after this and able to take a job with a governmental agency, for instance. So the recommendation is that if you are a person knowing about a certain crime and being committed, you should collaborate with state authorities. Otherwise, if you continue being involved in criminal activities, nobody would ever hire you as a specialist, because if you are registered as a cyber criminal, this will prevent you from getting into governmental cybercrime forces. I have a question. We say that our information security future experts are being trained at mathematics departments, physics departments, and whatever. And we say that we should try to attract them to legal business, and in business companies they have to document every single step they make. Programmers, they program, they encrypt, they write codes. They are not the guys writing papers and papers every day. These are different people who do this. Such a guy can produce as a result of experiment or something, a code, but not a paper. Georgi said so. There are engineers, there are mathematicians, and paperwork experts.
законодательства и разработки документов.
But it's
По-моему, здесь,
legislation and other
очень мало
things
исключений,
included.
может быть, малого бизнеса, где один человек и жнец,
In
и
small
на
business,
перекрестке
maybe you
должен
have to
учитывать
do
и,
everything
значит,
yourself.
в компаниях, которые насчитывают
In big
350,
companies
100
having
человек,
tens or
как правило,
hundreds of
несколько
people,
людей, которые
usually
отвечают за
there are
разные
several
вопросы, за
persons
эксплуатацию
in charge of
всех
different
процессов,
things.
документов, за
Somebody is in
работу
charge of
политики,
producing
стратегические вопросы,
documents,
за водительские
somebody is in
регуляторы
charge
и
of
так далее.
ensuring
Поэтому, на мой
physical
взгляд,
security and so on. So
проблемы
I don't
нет,
see
не
any
надо
problem in
навязывать
big
человеку
companies.
то, что он действительно не умеет
The
делать.
person
Если он
shouldn't
не умеет,
be
он не будет этим заниматься, он уйдет с этой работы.
liable for
Но, на мой
something
взгляд,
the
проблемы
person
как
is
таковой
not to
нет.
be liable. The person, these experts, they should do their job. Pen testers, auditors, and other guys, they do not only have to make analysis of what they see at the employer's side, but they have to write reports, reviews, and other things. They are taught to break in, to do something like this, but not to write papers. I know the majority of integrators know that there are people who are in charge of actual security, and there are those who formalize on paper actions performed in order to comply with regulations, right? Georgi. I have a question to Sergey. I'm user of anti-chat forum from 2008. I visit it every day. I'm very grateful to the chat's management, to the waiters. I'm very glad to hear that, like Sergey said, that the anti-chat forum will now publish more trustworthy information and so on. And we'd like to see how really serious you are in trying to become really legal. Guys, thank you for appreciating what we do. Because I see sort of stagnation now. One thing is when you announce doing something. Another thing is when something starts going the way you want it to go. Now people understand that going into break-ins business is a dead end. But that's not enough. Because we have a service, but we don't have many guys who trust those guys who did break-ins in the past to write codes. You understand? Colleagues, now we have another speaker. It's Vladimir Zhirinovsky. He's leader of Liberal Democratic Fraction from State Duma, head of Defense Fraction, and I guess, Vladimir, you have definitely something to say. We've been discussing for quite a time the role of the young in information security and which way they will go, to the bright or the dark side of the business. What can you say? What is now being done to keep the young in the legal business, not to go into cybercrime? With pleasure, I'll say a few words. Thank you. In the process of lawmaking, we mainly see the negative side, because all the laws are focused on reducing the negative things happening in our life. It's like we reduce the speed limits in order to have fewer road accidents, and we increase taxes to get more money to help other citizens and so on. It's like in your topic, it's a new topic, completely new one, and important one. So we are ready to help you to develop as soon as possible the legal framework for you to function in it without being afraid of liability. Because
In the past, even private entrepreneurship was criminally punishable. It was a crime because in the past it was considered that law-abiding citizens could only work for the state. Maybe it will happen so in 100 or 200 years. Now we have 7 billion people. Soon we'll have 10 billion maybe, and private initiative can be dangerous. But people don't want everything to be done only by NGOs or the state. Now everybody wants to also to do something. If you take what hackers do, what the young do, everybody wants to do something on their own. They don't want to sit in an office. They want to sit at home and solve all the problems. It's good. But we have to find tools to stop some parts of the young who can break the rules, who can go beyond what is permitted and find themselves on the brink of a crime. They can be dragged into crime. Probably somebody drags them into crime, and especially young people who understand when you are 13 or 14. Of course, we are trying to provoke them to learn more and more, and they want to learn everything by themselves. You know why kids break their toys? They want to see what's inside. Sometimes the parents punish a kid because the kid has broken an expensive toy. The guy cries, but the desire to break something, an information network or bank's security system, is exciting. It's just exciting. And the young guy doesn't probably want to harm somebody, just out of excitement, out of curiosity that they do so. And when you are 12, 13, 16, even 20, when you are young, that's the time when your brain works perfectly well, so you just need to channel these brains into the right way, into the right direction, and the state should help them from every possible perspective, should help them to understand that they can legally make some good money and keep their good name. And how? Let me find a comparison for you to understand. For instance, in our country we have construction workers, those who have a legal salary, a legal job. Probably the salary is lower, but you can see the buildings you build. And there are some illegal migrants working as illegal construction workers. Sometimes they make more money maybe, but at a certain moment of time they can be deported from the country or deprived of their construction license or whatever. Same in politics, for instance. Some guys set up a political party just to participate in the political life of the party. There is nothing illegal in this, but the democratic process is hindered. Because if we have 100 political parties, out of which there are just 20 or 30 parties launched by somebody just to distract people from others. And it's difficult for those who want to stay in the legal framework to compete with them. It's difficult. If a party participates in elections, didn't get a single vote and disappears, what's the sense? We have a law that if a party got less than 3% of votes at elections, they have to cover the expenses for free of charge propaganda on TV, for instance. That's a new thing. But nobody has yet been penalized for this because the guys, they very quickly after elections go to merge with other political parties not to pay these penalties. I guess it's easier for me to answer questions if you want to. I fully support the topic of your forum, and we on our side are ready to help to establish contacts with law enforcement bodies, R&D institutions, Ministry of Economics, Russian Committee for the Young, and so on, and Seligera forums and other places you can set up summer camps for the young to share experience, positive experience. And security is a global threat. You saw tornadoes sweeping a whole city in US yesterday. The same kind of hurricane attacked one of Russian cities. All this goes around the world. Energy security, other security threats show that it's a global world, it's a super global world, and no country can feel completely safe, even if it invests a lot of money into security. Everybody else will just get united and will do this, and I think it's easier to collaborate. It's better to get together in such conference rooms and such forums rather than having litigation discussions in the courtroom and then reading in newspapers some negative coverage of what you did. Those who do the right thing, sometimes the consequences of their actions can be negative. Have you been broken in or broken? Well, probably there was nothing to break in. No, not really. You know, once, for instance, there was a situation when a person said he had money in a bank vault, and then the guy said the money disappeared from the bank, even though the guy, he retrieved the money himself. In one Saratov bank, the bailiffs retrieved 3 million rubles. He said that he brought the money to Moscow to give a bribe to some official, but he didn't need to use the money because the whole thing failed, and nobody actually broke into the information system. The guy just said that the money disappeared from the bank vault. The vault should know who retrieved the money. The monitor, the cameras should show who retrieved the money from the safe vault. Or, for instance, fictitious contracts are provided. It's a scam. Somebody comes and says your regional organization completed this contract, they didn't have money, you owe us 9 million. The guy approached us with a fake contract, saying he wants us to pay 9 million. Their guys confirmed that the contracts were real ones in the courtroom. Well, sometimes you can try to prevent it, but what can you do in this case? You can break into our website, our fraction, writing that we are lobbying adoption of some terrible law, or that we have lobbied against it or something, you know. For instance, even in a primitive way, you can do this via computer network. You can withdraw our money somewhere, or you can submit some contract or something for us to pay. We have no right to be involved in any commercial activities. That's one limitation. But all of us are in a risk zone. That's why it makes sense to join our efforts. You know, when we are young, we want results right now, quickly. But ideally, we should live a beautiful life. If you grab something when you are 17, and then for the rest of your life, your name will be spoiled, your good name will be spoiled, is it worth it? For instance, not long ago, there was a case. A guy has never had any criminal record, but the guy is in contact with a guy who's a member of a criminal group. The guy didn't even know that because it was his ex-classmate. But the law enforcement agencies recorded the fact that this guy, he was in touch with that criminal. Or for instance, once I was invited for a dinner. It was not in Moscow, in another city. The mayor invited me to dinner in a restaurant which turned out to belong to some criminal, big criminals. And then I read in the newspapers, Zhirinovsky was meeting big crime godfathers in a restaurant in Minsk. And how can you move to Moscow, people that I wasn't there, having business discussions with criminals? Because I was there having discussions with the city mayor. These criminals, they were sitting at tables next to us, and they could even ask me for an autograph. So I just mean this, that sometimes you can do nothing actually but spoil your name, have your name spoiled. And if somebody really goes into cybercrime, a young guy can really have his name spoiled for a very long time. He can hack into the database and do something to retrieve his name from the blacklist. We had such a case, a guy paid money for somebody to hack into the Ministry of Interior database, and his name was taken out of the list of bad guys, but the archives are still there. There is high information level. If you pay it or if you break it yourself, you can insert fake information or you can retrieve the information you don't want to figure there. But
Согласен, но бумагу не держать,
it will soon be global. Yes, the paper archives are not deleted, right, but paper can burn. I'm just saying that you should think about your good name. You shouldn't strive for big money right now. You should first of all think about because if hackers break into the foreign's website and say there is a bomb somewhere here in the foreign building, and the foreign will be closed all the time. Hackers can actually make your phone. You don't know what will happen if you try to do something like this. Someone can do this against you. If your wife goes to a maternity to deliver her child, and the electricity goes down because some hacker breaks into process control system somewhere. You never know where it can happen to anything. You can't be sure nothing will happen like this to you if you sit at home and try to break into somebody else's websites or systems. People want to protect themselves, so we have to do this.
Награждали за ваше умение. Ибо ваш талант идет, ну, с бокса, можно сказать. Чемпион мира по боксу, по луре, да, на свете. Или парень где-то там кому-то накостылял. И 5 лет сидит в колонии. То же самое, по боксу. Ринг, ты можешь свою физическую силу потратить легально. Тебе будут аплодировать награды. Тебя будет знать страна. Или тебя будет знать местные участковые и местный районный суд. Ты реагируешь по приговору. Все бокс. Ты также руками поработал.
You'll be known by the law enforcement agencies. You'll be a celebrity, but not a positive one. Or if you rape a girl, you serve a term in prison. Or if you are a good guy,
так тебя
your
ищет.
girl will keep
Одно и то же.
looking for you,
Есть
waiting
какие-то
for you
отношения,
to
ну
come
так,
home.
какой формат загнать? Я и говорю,
It all
это
depends on the
позитивный
side, positive or
формат. Вот я
negative.
сижу перед вами,
I'm sitting
имею
here
право
in front of
выступать.
you. I
Меня
have the right to
пропускают.
say something.
У меня какой-то
They let
статус
me
есть.
in. I have a
И кто-то сидит
status.
и другой политикой
And
занимается.
there are other
Он тоже
guys
хочет
being
на
involved
месте.
in other
Но он
politics. They
идет
also would like to sit
на
in my
подпольные
shoes,
дела,
but
на
they do some black
листовки, на
politics.
взрывы. Ну, тоже вот это
They
всё.
are in opposition. They are committing some
Кому-то он
terrorist attacks or
импонирует.
whatever,
Но у него дома
trying to
портрет
gain
Троцкого,
recognition.
который кровью
Somebody
залил
likes them,
нашу
but
страну
they have a
в
Trotsky's
первые годы
portrait
советской
somewhere
власти.
hanging on the wall.
Его
Trotsky
прабабушка в Крыму
organized
уничтожала
bloodshed in
Белую
the
армию.
years of Soviet
Тысячи
power.
офицеров были обезглавлены, уничтожены.
Thousands of officers
Вот,
were
путь
killed
человека.
at that
Я просто не
time.
говорю,
That's,
что
I'm just
в
telling
позитиве
them that they
видимо,
should
это
do
сидит под
something
домашним
positive,
арестом.
something
Пока еще ничего
useful
не
for the
делает.
country,
Но
or
его
sit
прабабушка
under
кровь
her
проливала
arrest.
прадедушка из
They
фермера
haven't done yet
и он любит
anything, but
Троцкого. Не
if
надо
they love
Троцкого любить,
Trotsky,
Че
if
Гевару
their
любить, революционера.
grandmothers have
Идите
killed
работать.
thousands of Russians.
И вам будут деньги. Деньги и награды, и государство вас будет ценить, вас будут звать. Перед вами откроются двери, будут расшаркиваться. За ваш самый важный интеллект. Сломать чужие сети. Они миллионы долларов потратят. Тысячи людей работают. А вы один в московской школе в университете всю систему поломал. И остановились их ракеты, там, метро, больницы, там, например. Неважно, то же самое нам надо сделать. Страна не играет роль.
Hospitals or
Поэтому
whatever. It
вот
doesn't matter in
позитив
which
к этому
country
зовут.
this happens. I'm saying you should do something positive. Thank you. Arkady Prokudin, I have a question to Mr. Zhirinovsky. I have a particular question. What exactly steps and proposals this year you and your party are planning to submit for hearing, for discussion at State Duma and other public governmental agencies to motivate for positive
Мы и от
behavior?
вас ждем предложений.
We are expecting your proposals in this context. What form of proposals would you like us to make? We have a committee for the young, for education, for security, probably all of them, and each of them has to set up a working group to favor adoption of laws that would make
Вы
your
талантливые, и вас
work
надо также оценивать, как там победители Олимпиад, там, или какие-то там научные открытия,
free
кому-то
and
какие-то звания,
motivating
какие-то там
for
премии.
new
Вот
successes,
сегодня
for
номинация
getting
«Лучший
awards.
финансист».
For
года.
instance, now
Давайте
the
выберем
best
такого
financier of
пианиста,
the
будет
year.
лучший
We
хакер
have such a
года.
context.
Вот
Let's
позитив.
organize
Он сумел
contests like the best hacker of
получить
the
задание,
year.
взломал сеть в Австралии, в
Meaning,
Москве,
for
в
instance, he
Нью-Йорке,
got
в
a
Сингапуре
task to break
и
into
получил великолепную
networks in
премию,
Australia and
потому что он
Singapore.
показал слабость
And he
системы
got an
безопасности.
award. Why?
Он
Because
как
he
врач
showed the
остановил диагноз.
vulnerability of
Он как
somebody's
ученый
security system.
предсказал, что у вас будет
Doctor
землетрясение,
showed there
но
is a
пока как
problem,
учебное,
there is
пойдем
a
покажем. Вот вам конец. Я ввел
vulnerability.
вирус, там что сделал,
Or, for
и ваша
instance,
система уже не
I made
функционирует.
viruses,
Нам нужно
I
знать
introduced viruses, your
точно
system doesn't function
какой
now.
нормативный акт
You act
принять,
like a
чтобы
doctor.
вы себя
So
спокойно
it's up to
слушали,
you
чтобы
now to
использовать
tell us
согласно
what
ученым,
law you need
мы готовы.
for the federal security
Куда?
service to listen
Куда?
to you and to recruit you.
Сайт
Москва,
Come to
сайт
us.
есть наш,
Yes, you
пожалуйста.
can find us
Да,
on our
www.ru,
website.
и мы все это
You can find us
чтобы
anywhere.
сформулировать. Правильно сформулировать вы должны.
You
Вам
need
что нужно,
to
чтобы
word
спокойно работать, знать, что ваш труд приносит пользу.
and rules
Пока
you
мы
need to
слышим только
make
отрицательную
your
информацию,
work
или как
useful
обычные
for the
обыватели,
country.
граждане реагируют, что-то там
For the
случилось,
time
какой-то
being,
хакер,
we just
какие-то деньги,
see
какие-то там транспортный
what
коллапс,
bad
какой-то
things
аэропорт,
hackers did.
вырубили свет, там, и то.
No
Это
electricity
вы
in the
построили.
airport, or
Может,
hacker
наши
did this
депутаты
or broke in
всё-таки,
here, and we
это самая
want
молодая
to hear
фракция.
from you what you
Это
need.
40 лет.
Our fraction, our political party is the youngest one, but it's 40 years, and
Вы в курсе дела,
you know
направьте нам
better
материалы,
what you
юристам
need.
поручим, и
Send
примем
us your
необходимые
proposals, we'll
поправки в
give them to
закон или
our
отдельный
lawyers,
закон.
and
Пожалуйста.
we'll propose amendments or propose a new law. I'm a representative from State Technological University. Based on new educational standards, not less than 30% of special disciplines should have practical lessons. So my question is to all integrators, would you be able to give us experts who will be able to help our students to practice it right. Because the problem is that not all good experts are good teachers, are good lecturers, because it's different. I understand what you mean by your question. So you want to know whether you can, translating your question, increase the salary of academics in order to attract practicing cybersecurity experts to train students. That's the problem, Mr. Livanov. He is supposed to implement the educational reforms, but all reformers, they failed because they should combat the disease. They should close bad institutes, useless institutes, but we also need to reduce the number of students, as they think we have 6 million students, more than in any other country, but we want more effectiveness. If we transform it the right way, we'll have a more practical approach. I spoke about it some 30 years ago. The academics should not be too academic. You know these guys, they are reading the same lectures for 30 years, being completely not in the picture of the latest trends in real life. When we were students, we always wanted more real life, so we want more practically focused guys to come to the high schools. Let theoreticians also be there, let academics be there, but they should be there. Yet young, and it's difficult. The previous education minister has lost his job because he didn't do anything, and the current minister of education will also lose his job because he's not doing anything to change it. Now it's a new century in which we have hackers. We have armies, but cyber armies now. If we need some mobile task force somewhere, let them be available in a couple of hours, and then be back. There'll be no more Afghanistans, there'll be no more Second World Wars. Now you should not harm anything and anybody. Well, I'm not sure you can easily develop and quickly develop Afghanistan to be a modern country, but in any case, you are right. We need more practical experts to be academics. It's difficult. Hackers, they work silently. Fingers work. And they don't really speak. They don't have anybody to speak. Their brains work, their fingers work. And of course, there is a threat as well. So you need teachers, you need academics who can explain everything to them the right way, the right things, the useful things. They should be young. For instance, if a student is 16 and the academic is 26, they'll understand each other. But if the student is 16 and the academic is 70, of course the academic still remembers the counting, the old counting ways, not calculators. So how can we remove these academics? They are live people. We have 150,000 academics, too many. Where can we put away? We don't need them that much, but we can't fire over them. It's like officers in the army. We have too many, but we can't when a janitor, a cleaner is a retired person, it's okay. When a doctor is certified and doesn't remember anything and is capable of treating people, for instance, what do we do? And if an academic is another person, not in touch with the latest developments, what can we do? Because we cannot simply fire them. What can we do? These are live people. That's why we need to give the right forecast of what will happen. For instance, in the Far East of Russia, you cannot develop the Far East. I'm telling them, okay, let's not recruit
young
До
people
27 лет будет жить на Дальнем Востоке. В армию его не призовут.
who live in the
У нас
Far
200
East.
тысяч уклонистов по
People
стране
will keep going
и
to the
200
Far
тысяч
East,
уехали за рубеж.
otherwise
Там
they
сидят.
will flee
До
from the Far
27 лет
East.
они раньше не
Because we
вернутся.
have lots of those who
Давайте
stay
400 тысяч
home and
готовы
live
поехать туда,
till they
чтобы
turn
нормально жить
27,
и
after
работать, не
which age
прятаться.
they will not
А
be
давайте колония
obliged to
поселения
go
там
to army
сделаем.
service.
И срок сократим.
Or,
Передали в Москве
for
5 лет.
instance, if you
Иди на
have
Дальний Восток, колония поселения. Будь тебе только 2 года.
ability to
Но он
serve
там
5 years
адаптируется.
in a
Он
colony
там
or
останется
prison,
жить.
they
На
will
вольном
stay
времени там
around
давали.
Moscow.
Если
Or
мы
2
дали 20
years if you
пунктов,
go to the
пока
Far
ни
East,
один не
make
работает,
your
ничего не
choice.
сделает закон. Вот он простой
They
пример.
haven't done
Власть.
anything
Закон,
there.
ничего для
They
Дальнего
have
Востока не
not
сделал.
done
Разговоры.
anything over the
Разговоры.
past year.
Старый министр Ишаев.
Development
Он с
of
прошлого
the
века.
Far East. The
Он не
old
знает, как
minister
это делать.
Ishayev. He's an
А
old
мы
guy.
да.
He's an
Точно те
obsolete
пункты,
guy,
которые
obsolete
позволят сделать
mentality. He
взрыв
hasn't done anything.
экономический,
We
социальный.
suggested
Что это можно делать?
the action
Это можно
items
делать, но
to
если в центре
result in
по-живому,
economic boom in the
куда их
Far
девать?
East.
Ну почему еще власть
What
боится?
can we do
Вот
about
только в Москве
life?
убрать.
We cannot
Преподавательство в
find
Москве.
half of
Куда они
academics in
пойдут?
the
На
country.
Богу.
Where will the
уволят с
academics
работы.
go if we
Офицеры
find
куда
them
пойдут?
in
На
Moscow?
Богу.
They'll go and
Это
join
миллион
the
соберется.
opposition forces in mass
Вот
meetings.
и
Millions
кто
of
сверхсоветскую
people
власть.
go
На
into
Манеж
mass
приходит
meetings.
миллион человек.
It's like in Soviet
Те же
times,
самые,
millions
сегодня
of
Бог
people came to
приходит.
Manezh.
20 лет назад приходили на Манеж. Ну
in
ничего хорошего, власть свергли, страну поломали,
They
а
broke
теперь
the
где деньги?
country, they
И как брать
overturned
мигрантов?
the
Как мигрантов не
governments,
было.
and what
Они
happens?
появились после свержения страны.
What happens?
Так что можно
when
делать,
the
я
illegal
поддерживаю
migrants
вас,
appear?
но по-живому
After the
тяжело
old
иногда
government was,
резать, тем более это люди образованные, пусть они отстали уже,
I know
но они
the
образованы,
old
они могут стать
academics, they are
массой
educated
такой
people,
революционной.
but they
Я
can
объясняю
become
эти вещи, когда
revolutionary mass
не запаздывает
if
власть,
they are
а
following.
намеренно чего-то не делает.
I'm saying
И
about
чтобы
things
не получить более худший
when the
результат.
authorities are
Спасибо.
knowledgeable,
Коллеги, давайте последний
knowing
вопрос.
they're not doing
Валерий,
something, admitting to
председатель
do
прессы.
something, not to have a real catastrophe. My question is about the following. Not long ago, Ruslan Gattarov was sitting in your seat. He suggested recruiting hackers for cyber force, for cyber army forces. Hackers who have done committed some offense, so that they become members of Russian cyber army. You have a certain experience of something like that, I guess. So I wanted to ask you my question. There is a problem, a psychological problem. A hacker, by definition, does not want to obey, to report to somebody. How can we motivate a hacker to serve somebody? How can we motivate a hacker to serve his country? To redeem, to be redeemed for the offense committed.
Я с вами абсолютно
I
согласен.
absolutely agree with you.
Мы уже появилось понятие научные роли.
Now we already have a notion
Ребята,
of
склонные к науке,
scientific
чтобы они на 4-м курсе шли бы на год в армию,
battalions,
не теряли связь с
so
профессией,
that they
а в рамках
go
военных
to
академий,
army
каких-то воинских
service
частей
in
продолжали
their career,
заниматься
but they
наукой.
continue
Но в конкретных лабораториях
working in
какие-то
scientific
поможет курсовые делать, там,
laboratories, and
дипломные,
this
там,
would
что-то
be
делать,
equal to
или
army service.
кандидатские.
For somebody it would
Здесь,
be
конечно,
even good, they could
нужно
write
время
their
поиск связи,
PHDs,
новый
dissertations while being in the army. Probably we need a new type of armed forces to be set up like
Хорошо
the
совладелись. Вот ансамбль песни
space
пляски
security
великолепный.
systems.
Но
It's
это
like
для отдыха, для
song
развлечения,
and
для
dance
духа, для патриотизма. А вот так
band.
вот
This is
хакеров
for
призывать
patriotism.
на
But how
работу
can we
какие-то
recruit
военизированные
hackers
части,
to
можно
work in
напрямую призвать на
some sort of
вот
army
воинская
type?
часть, потом нужно
Well,
они останутся, и обязательно
it can be
будут
done
давать
like
задания,
recruitment into the army for
оплачивать
1 year,
высоко,
but
и
the
после этого
salary should be
помогать
high,
к переходу
and you should
на
help the guys
гражданский вид
to
деятельности.
then
Когда
start working in civil
11-миллионная армия,
industry.
в 10 раз больше.
Remember the
Почему
army
вы
we
сокращаете?
had
It
Ведь
was
доказательство советской
tenfold
власти
of what we
это
have
демобилизованный
now.
офицер.
I was
Как пришел
asking
2
them,
миллиона
why
штурм,
don't you
58 год.
fire
Потом
them?
Брежнев сокращал,
Brezhnev
потом
was reducing
Горбачев,
the
Ельцин.
headcount of
Свержение
army,
страны.
Gorbachev,
Люди
Yeltsin,
потерялись.
and
А я
remember what
говорю,
happened?
если у вас
People
автобан,
lost. The
а
army
второго, превратите его в автомобильный
disintegrated.
кооператив, дайте им их
And I
технику,
told them, why
пускай
do you
занимают
do it
военную
that
форму,
way? Why
работают
do
как
you fire
гражданская
them?
структура.
Convert them
Стройбанк,
to
вот
civil
он готовый
business.
строительный
If it's
кооператив.
an automotive
Солдаты есть
battalion,
офицеры,
convert
офицеры
it into
инженеры,
some
солдаты
automotive
рабочие.
enterprise
То
and
есть
do the
надо
same thing
не
everywhere.
распускать армию,
Don't
а
fire
переводить на
them,
гражданские
don't
рельсы вместе
dismiss
с
them
ним.
completely,
Войска
for them to go
радиосвязи,
nowhere,
потом
convert them
телеком,
into something
пожалуйста,
civil.
по всей стране
They can work in
отделение
telecom industry,
Ростелекома и еще
in
остальное.
telecom
То есть вот так
industry,
было.
in
А сегодня наоборот,
communication
сегодня
industry,
нет
and so on.
хакеров в армии.
Now you don't have hackers
Их
in the
можно
army,
призывать,
but
тем
you
более,
can
если
recruit
какие-то
them,
есть
especially if
конфликты
they
с
have
законом,
had some
и они будут
minor
работать,
offense
помогать
in their
не только
record.
военной
They would
безопасности,
help not only in terms of
получив
military
навыки
security, but
и подняв квалификацию,
by
помочь им
increasing their professional
перейти на работу в
qualification,
гражданское
you
время.
can help them
По линиям
go
Минсвязи, того
into
же
some
Ростелекома,
civil
Минэкономики,
business.
городских каких-то структур.
Can be some
Обязательно.
housing, municipal
Я говорил
complex
всегда,
or
что
whatever.
кадровая работа.
It's
Нам не нужно социальных революций,
It's
политических
what
и
I've
экономических.
always said. We
Нужна
don't need any
революция
social
только одна,
revolutions,
кадровая.
neither
Правильно
political nor
расставить
economic
людей.
ones.
У нас
We
полно
need HR
всех
revolution.
образованных, талантливых.
We need
Вот
personnel
помочь талант
revolution.
направить, так сказать,
We need
вот,
to
нужное
help
направление.
to
Когда вы
channel the
сократили
talents the right
разведчиков
way.
воевавших в Афганистане,
When
куда они
we
пойдут? Часть из них пошли в
reduce
криминал.
the number
А в
of
полицию кто пришел? С улицы, ребят.
reconnaissance
Разве можно
officers in
воевать?
Afghanistan. We
Дальше
helped
разведчики с
them.
Афганистана
Of
будут
course,
лучшими
the
криминалами,
reconnaissance
чем
guys
те, кто
who
их
fought in
ловили.
Afghanistan
Нужно
became
было
the most
их направить
intelligent
в
criminals.
ФСБ,
We
направить в
should have
МВД,
channeled
а не на
them to
улицу.
Federal Security Service,
То же
to
самое
Ministry of
спортсмены.
Interior.
Их направить
They
в
were
подразделения, где нужно
completely
применять
left
силу
out
снаружи.
of
А у
our
нас что
life.
делают?
And of course, they
Просто
wanted to
увольняют.
organize
Просто
crime.
распускаются.
Our
Просто
country
на
does a
улицу.
stupid
Это приводит к
thing. They
раздражению.
just fire people.
Это
People
правильно.
go into the streets.
Построить
People
работу
get
с кадрами,
angry.
и мы превратимся в самое
Because they have
мощное в мире
nowhere to go.
государство.
If
Знаете,
we
так
structure
сегодня
our
очень
work
любят
with
и
the
уважают
personnel, with
посуду.
human resources, the
Везде
right
повестки
way,
дня только
our
Россия.
country will become the strongest
Остальные
in
не
the world.
участвуют.
But the problem is that
Ничего.
everybody else
Поэтому я
does
бы
it
хотел
except for
в
Russia.
заключение пожелать
So finally, I'd
успех
like to wish
вашему
you
форуму,
every
чтобы действительно
success,
государство нашло
and I'd
какие-то
like our government
нечувствительные точки
to
и
find
помочь.
the
Ну,
right
вот
way
раньше
to
было пионерская
motivate,
организация.
to
В
help.
каждом районе
It's
дом
like in the
пионера.
past we had
Кто мешает
pioneer
сейчас создать
organization.
по всей стране дом хакера?
Why don't you create
Там
hackers
прокурор,
like
люди там сидят и
we
занимаются, и помогают им легализовать то, что они хотят.
And
Кто
let's
хочет
help them to legalize
какие-то
what they are
счета
doing.
банковские ворваться,
They want to break
договориться
into
с
some
банком,
bank accounts. Okay,
что
you agree with
эта
it.
операция начнется. Если ребята смогут это сделать, дайте им половину, там, какую-то
If the
премию,
bank
какой-то
sees
процент
that
от
the guys
дохода
are
банка.
able to
И
break
банк
into
быстро
their
начнет решать
system,
спецсистему
let the
свою.
bank pay the
Они
guys
все
for
заинтересованы в горовой
discovering
разделе.
this
Так
vulnerability.
взламывают,
Bank
а
should
банк
be
за голову
interested in
пытается.
this.
И кому-то другому платят
Maybe
бешеные
they
деньги.
are not
И хакерам
cooperating
заплатить,
with
так они
each
взломают.
other, so the hackers are
Они
breaking
помогут
into banks.
сделать
So
систему,
since
чтобы было
the
трудно
banks
взломать
are
хотя бы в ближайшие
having a
2-3
tragedy
года.
now,
То есть
with the
соединить
help of the hackers, the
интеллект тех,
banks
кто
will
готов
discover that they have
разрушать,
vulnerabilities,
с теми, кто
so that if they
обязан защищать свои
collaborate,
структуры,
they'll make
управляющие
the security
физические
systems
финансы.
of banks even
Соединить
stronger.
нужно.
Let's them
Всем будет приятно,
collaborate.
все на
Everybody will
работе,
benefit.
у всех есть
Everybody will
доход,
have a job.
все в
Everybody will
безопасности,
have a good
всем
salary.
премии,
Everybody will
награды.
be secure and rewarded for
Живем
that.
хорошо, жизнь удалась.
The life will be great.
Спасибо.
Don't you think so?
Уважаемые коллеги, я на правах модератора
Dear
хотел бы
colleagues,
подытожить
as a
то, что мы сегодня
moderator,
обсуждали.
let
Действительно, очень
me
важная тема.
summarize
И я
what we
хотел бы
just
обратить ваше
discussed,
внимание,
because it's an
что
interesting and
несмотря на
important topic.
бытующееся мнение о том, что
You know,
государство
even
ничего
though
не
the
делает,
government,
сегодня
as
прозвучало со
everybody
стороны
says,
законодательной
is not
исполнительной
doing
власти,
anything, but the
во-первых,
legislative and
ряд
executive
шагов,
authorities representatives
инициатив,
today
которые уже
voiced a
сейчас
number of
предпринимаются
action
для
items and
того, чтобы
initiatives
молодежи
currently underway
помогать.
and being implemented
Есть ряд
to help the
шагов,
young.
связанных с
A
изменением
number
законодательной
of
власти, но при
steps are
этом
being
было
taken
не
in
раз
order to
озвучено,
change
что
the current
помогает
situation, but, like Vladimir said, suggest what you want us to change or what you want the legislators to change in order for you to work in a more comfortable environment. And the business community also voiced its proposal, voiced its statement that they really do need good experts. It's not easy to find a job if you come from nowhere, but if we're talking about professionals, qualified professionals, there are good job offers with good salaries and exciting work. Also, law enforcement bodies are ready to recruit knowledgeable young people. And Mr. Zhirinovsky mentioned an important thing, by the way, what the professionals call bug bounty. When commercial organizations invite one-time experts to detect vulnerabilities of a system, they pay good money for it. This is the way it's being done. For instance, Kiwi payment system or Yandex payment system, they publish their program of doing so. That's another opportunity of having a good legal job, using your skills, your knowledge, be on the good side, on the legal side of the business. And it's right, the situation is currently starting to change, and I very much hope that next time we get together for another Positive Hack Day, we'll be already able to discuss some legislative changes, positive changes, and we'll see what the Ministry of Communications has done. Unfortunately, we have no representatives of Ministry of Education here, but we still hope for positive changes, and we very much urge you to participate in our forthcoming new Positive Hack Days. Unfortunately, probably we were unable to answer all of your questions, but all of us will be around here today and tomorrow. You'll be able to ask us your questions either in person, or you can channel your questions to our site to discuss some particular proposals. And I can just suggest to you something. In the center of Moscow, we have our youth center. You can come together on a more regular basis because you don't have Positive Hack Days too often. You can come to our youth center. It's Lukov Lane 9 on Chistye Prudy metro station. You can take a room or two to get together, to have some permanent platform to get together and discuss your issues, communicate, because it's not easy to get together in somebody's place. Maybe your wife is against it or whatever, and there we are able to give you technically a couple of days for you to have a platform. Thank you.